There was once a man who became a Christian, a young man who became a Christian, and he went off to a summer lumber camp. Now, you can tell this is America, but wouldn't you love to go to a lumber camp? Just the opportunity to be a lumberjack to work. So he went off to this summer lumber camp to work, and his pastor was concerned about him because he knew it would be a difficult situation to be a Christian, to be a light for the Lord. But after the summer was over and the boy returned, the pastor met with him and said, "Son, I want you to know that I knew you'd just been saved, and I knew it was going to be difficult for you. So I prayed for you whilst you were working this summer at the lumber camp. I was praying that they wouldn't make it too hard for you." And the young man said, "Oh no, preacher, I didn't have it hard at the lumber camp. You know, in fact, preacher, none of them ever found out that I was a Christian." And that's the problem. That sometimes we forget, or we give up, or we don't let others know that who we belong to, who we're following. And in the reading today, Jesus says to us, you are salt and light. That's Jesus' call to us. He says, you are light. It's in his nature. The light shines in the darkness and the darkness can never extinguish it, John says about Jesus. That's who he is. As he lived his life, he was salt and he influenced so many people. And so I think today we have this responsibility, this opportunity to be an influencer for Jesus. Yeah, to be an influencer for Jesus. Now, in many young people, when you ask them what they want to do when they grow up, they say they want to be an influencer. Because if you're an influencer and you've got all those followers on social media, you can have product placement, you can get adverts, you can do all those things, and you can apparently get lots of money, and it's a successful job to be an influencer. And so today I'm giving the opportunity to be an influencer for no pay, for no money, but for the King of Glory. So why should we be an influencer? It's the will of Jesus for his people. Jesus expects his followers to not only go into the world to preach the gospel and make disciples, but also to influence the community in which they live in order to make it more pleasing to God. And all of us are familiar with salt and light, two very common household commodities. Salt, for instance, is found in almost every home. Everybody used it in Palestine when Jesus was around. Jesus would have known it since he was a boy. He would have watched his mother use salt in the kitchen. Still, wherever there are no refrigerators, salt is often used to preserve and is also a good antiseptic. Mary would have rubbed salt into the meat or the fish, or she would have left them to soak in salty water in order that they might be preserved. When the lights went down, she would have turned on lamps. And so Jesus knew the normality of these two things. But what did he mean? I want to put them together, the thinking of what the effect of salt and the effect of light, and put them together to help us understand a little bit more about what Jesus could have meant. There's lots of different ideas here. But I think the first thing is that salt and light, it stops decay and darkness. Yeah, it stops decay and darkness. Salt has remarkable cleansing ability. There's this great story in 2 Kings chapter 2. One day, the leaders of the town of Jericho visited Elisha. "We have a problem, my lord," they told him. "This town is located in pleasant surroundings, as you can see, but the water is bad and the land is unproductive." Elisha said, "Bring me a new bowl with salt in it." So they brought it to him. Then he went out to the spring that supplied the town with water and threw the salt into it. And he said, "This is what the Lord says. I have purified this water. It will no longer cause death or infertility." And the water has remained pure ever since, just as Elisha said. The salt can be used to purify. Newborn babies, I'm not sure that this is what happened to Andre, but in Ezekiel 16 says, "On the day you were born, no one cared about you. Your umbilical cord was not cut, and you were never washed and rubbed with salt." Don't really do that with babies these days, do we? But in those days, it was washed and rubbed with salt to harden the skin, to make someone more robust and to be able to survive in tough conditions. Salt in a wound can cleanse that area. But I suppose the question is, do we have that purifying effect on the world around us? Do people behave differently when they encounter us? Sometimes we might get offended if people stop talking when we enter the room. But should that be a good thing? Because people realize that what they're talking about is purified when salt enters the room. It's a challenge, isn't it, to think, how can I be salt? How can I be in a place and help to purify it? Humanly, it's very difficult. But Jesus says, you are the salt. You are salt. Because of who he is, because of the commission he gives to us, the responsibility he gives to us, he says, you are the salt. You can purify places. When you are in a place, it will make a difference. Salt also preserves. It fends off decay. It's rubbed into the meat. It fends off. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 19, where it's like God's wanting to destroy this city because they're so bad. And it's, well, what about if there's 50 people there? What about if there's 10 people there? What about if there's 5 people there? Even just a few people there would have stopped that city being destroyed. But there weren't even that tiny bit of salt, those tiny faithful elements there. So the cities were destroyed. We, in the places where we go, can be that salt, can be that light that Jesus looks at and says, yeah, there's my people. There's my people. That place is better because they are in the situation. It's great also to think, isn't it, that light sort of gets rid of the darkness. We know that, don't we? Just a small match can extinguish light. Light is forced to flee. And we know that to be true. We know that to be true from the Bible, where the psalmist says, yes, there's just a tiny bit of light and it's enough light for my path. Yeah, and he says it's a light for my path. Or also in Psalm 119, the teaching of your word gives light, so even the simple can understand. Yeah, there's enough light. It stops there being darkness and there's light In Philippians 2, Paul says, live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. Yeah, we're called to be salt and light in a world that would decay, would go bad. We're called to be salt and light. And light is important. For back in the days before electricity, a tight-fisted old farmer was taking his hired man to task for carrying a lighted lantern when he went on call to his girlfriend. Why, he explained, when I was a courting, I never carried one of those things. I always went in the dark. Yes, the hired man said, and look at what you got. Oh, he might not have had a job. But anyway, is that true, isn't it? That light stops darkness. And we are people that can stop decay. We can stop there being darkness in places. But also I was thinking about some of the positive things of salt and light. Because salt and light, I think, bring out the best in situations. Yeah, they bring out the best in circumstances. They bring out the best. Salt can make things taste better. Yeah, too much salt's not good. It's, if you put salt rather than sugar on something, yeah, that's not good. But we know, don't we, many things we eat that are better because of salt in them. And salt can make things taste better. Yeah, and salt can bring about goodness. It can bring about situations and make them better. Like Jesus, when he went to the house of Zacchaeus, he made things better. Zacchaeus, a man who was hated, a man who was despised, a man who had to hide. He brought the best out of his life. Yeah, he brought salt into that situation. And we can do that in circumstances. Yeah, we can be people who bring the best out of a situation. Think of a gloomy day. We often start services when we say, it's a joyous, sunny day today. How good? Or it's a bit of a gloomy day, but it's still good. But wouldn't it be good if when you were around people, they thought, this is a sunny day. This is a good day. This is a good day because I have been with you. Yeah, wouldn't it be good that people thought, after you had been with them for 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days, I am so pleased that I was with them. I was so pleased I was with them. It was like the light, that stopped it being a gloomy day because I was with that person who knew Jesus. It's a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge. I'm just making sure I'm getting the right bit. When we are the people that shine brightly, it brings out the best. I was saying to some people last Sunday evening, yes, this morning, there was a really pretty girl that came to church. Now I suddenly thought that's probably not the best thing to say. And I realized that what I was saying was this person, as I said goodbye on the door, was shining Jesus. And I thought, I spent 50 seconds with her and I knew it was a brighter day. Yeah, it was a brighter day. I remember being challenged. I've shared this before, but I was in a retreat place and we went out. We were told to go out and find some space to reflect and spend time with God. So I went out of this centre and I turned right along the road and I thought, there's a nice field. I'll walk into a field. And so I walked into this field and I thought, this is nice. And then I was going along this track and there was a hedge on each side and I thought, this is nice. And then this massive tractor started coming along down this field. And I had to hide almost or get into this bush as this tractor came along this path, creating all the dust, all the other thing. And I thought, this is awful. So I turned round and went the other way and onto the other side of the road. And there was a graveyard. And at the back of the graveyard was this wood. And at the bit further on into this wood was a stream. And I went there. And God said to me, how do people see you? Are you someone who creates the hustle, creates the dust? Or are you someone that brings a better experience, a brighter experience? And I think Jesus says to us, you're salt, you're light. When you're around people, it's better. Salt also creates a thirst, isn't it? If when you have some peanuts, salted peanuts, you need a drink. Yeah. When it might be some other salt, you have some salty chips and you need a drink. You have this salty stuff and you need a drink. Perhaps when you see something and it's bright, you think, I want to look closer. I want to look closer. And it creates an interest. It sparks an interest. And I think that the way we live should spark an interest from other people as to why we're living the way we are. Yeah, the way we live should spark an interest. Too often people can say, well, why should I take an interest in that? My life is just as good as those people down at the church. In fact, I'm not as bad as some of them. But we should live in a way that makes people go, I want some of that. I want that. What have you got? Because I want some of it. Yeah, that's the way we should live. Yeah, decide. Yeah, Paul to the Romans says, let's stop condemning each other. Decide instead to live in such a way that you will not cause another believer to stumble and fall, or even another person to, let's live in a way that causes people to be inquisitive, causes people to say, I want to know more, causes people to say, yeah, that's what I want to find out about that. That's the way we should be, salt and light. Let's live in a way that creates intrigue. Yeah, intrigue and people wondering. Some weeks ago I talked to you about how we had some work done on our house, or we didn't have some work done on our house, because this man sort of came and he took some money and didn't finish the work. A few weeks ago, Vanessa went to his house to speak to his wife, because she knew her for a long time, and so wanted to go and speak to her. The expectation from her was that Vanessa was going to be like all her other friends who said, well, I suppose you're spending the money that he's dishonestly got. I suppose you're, and Vanessa was able to go, no, I'm just here as a friend. I'm here to value you. I'm here to hear your story. I'm here to encourage you. And as Vanessa was telling me the thing, she said, why are you not wanting vengeance? Why are you not angry? Why are you not wanting to take this out on me? intrigue. Intrigue, because I follow Jesus. And things are different when we follow Jesus, bringing light into a situation. Yeah, Ash at the bedside of her dying father. Her sister who doesn't know Jesus because of the way Ash has been. She says, shall we say the Lord's Prayer? Intrigue. Intrigue because of the way Ash has lived. Yet we can be people that cause others to have intrigue because of the way we live. Sometimes it might be because of what we say. But I think more often it's just simply how we live, how we respond, how we react, how we spend our time, how our conversations go. Yeah, we can create intrigue. And when we have intrigue, when we create intrigue, Jesus says, that's brilliant. On the last day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and shouted to the crowds, anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink. For rivers of living water will flow from his heart. So that's what we want to do. We want to create intrigue so that people go to Jesus, so that living water can flow from them. And that's what we can do if we're salty and lit for Jesus. But are we shining as lights? Are we salty? I think that's the question, isn't it? Because we should be different from non-Christians. We should be an influencer wherever we go. We should, as light and darkness, as salt and water, as life and decay, as oil and water, chalk and cheese. Yeah, these things are different. And Christians should be different from people that don't yet know Jesus. We should live in a different way. Yeah, we should shine brightly. As a church, we should shine brightly. One of the problems is that sometimes the church doesn't shine brightly in a community. If the house is dark at night, there's no point blaming the house, because that's when the sun goes down. The question is, where is the light? If meat goes bad, there's no point blaming the meat. This is what happens when bacteria is allowed to breed unchecked. The question is, where is the salt? If society becomes corrupt like a dark night or a stinking fish, there's no sense in blaming society. That's what happens when fallen human society is left to itself and human evil is unrestrained and unchecked. The question to ask, perhaps, is, where is the church? Where is the church? Why is the church not having a greater influence on society, hindering decay, spreading the light? It's entirely hypocritical of us to blame others or to shrug our shoulders and say, well, that's what happened. No, because we can be salt and light. Yeah, we can be the ones who shine. Individually, because Jesus talked about the city on the hill, but he also talked about the light in a home. What does this mean for us individually? Am I shining bright? Am I salty? Am I bringing the best out of situations? Am I stopping decay? Is my office block? Is my street? Is my classroom? Is my factory shop floor? Is my allotment? Are they better places because you were there. And you are salt and light. Problem is, it might be that you're thinking, I've lost my saltiness. I'm only good to be thrown out, trampled underfoot. Humanly speaking, that might be the reality. But Jesus can bring life from death. Jesus can bring saltiness from stuff that should just be trampled underfoot. So I invite you this morning to say, Lord, make me salty. Lord, is it, in Romans, so dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This truly is the way to worship him. This morning you need to say, Lord, I give myself to you again. I give myself to you because I want to be salty. Or perhaps you're thinking, yeah, Lord, I know I've got a light. I know I am a light, but I've got this bucket over it. It might be a bucket of fear. It might be a bucket of fear. It might be a bucket of saying, Lord, well, what will people think? What will people say? Do we need this morning to say to Jesus, I want to take this bucket of fear off? Yeah, because I'm going to stand up for Jesus in the office. I'm going to stand up for Jesus online. It's true, isn't it? If someone was to look at you and your life in the office, your life at work, your life at home, your life online, would they know you were a Christian? Would they know that you were shining light for Jesus? Would they know that, or would they be intrigued and inspired and have an interest in Jesus because of looking at you? Perhaps it's apathy. Just think, Lord, why should I? Someone else will do it. Someone else will be the salt and light. I don't need to be. I'm just me. Leave it to the professionals. If you look at the church in this country and around the world at the moment, the professional Christians, the leading Christians, are not doing a great job at being salt and light. But you can. And the thing is, the professionals, they don't live in your house. They don't live in or work in your office. They don't live on your street. You do. You're more important. The salt and light. Yeah, perhaps you just think, I will get round to it one day. And we need to say, no, Lord, I want to be lit today. I know we've run out of time. Sorry, we've gone on a little bit. But if you know you have covered your light, if you know you have not been as salty as you can be, as you should be, is it time now to say, Lord, I come to you. I come to you. I give myself again to you. Lord, help me to remove this bucket. And why do we do it? As it says there in the bottom, the result is life. Because when someone comes to Jesus, the light that he gives brings life, and life in all its fullness. Jesus says, be salty and light, because your people will see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. And come to life. Come to life because you have been salt and light. So let's be people who are witnesses and servants of Jesus, so that non-Christians will see us and give glory to our Father in heaven. May God increase the opportunity for you to influence others. And may he enable you to more and more take the responsibility of being salt and light in the world. Amen.